Hello everybody. Whenever we talk about shares and stocks, we talk about risk. We will be into systematic risk, but today we are talking about unsystematic risk, like how a particular sector can be affected and how it can be idealized. So we have categorized three different sectors. Those are banks, FMCG, and automobile. So let's go one by one. So let's understand how a particular risk can be affected in particular sector. So it could be a business risk, it could be a financial risk, and it could be an industrial risk. If it's a business risk, then we can say that when there is a loophole in their operational efficiency or managerial decisions, then we can say it's a business risk. But when they feel any problem during their financial statements or in P&L, then it's a financial risk. And same goes with the industrial risk as well. So as I said earlier, this is the first sector that we are choosing today. That's the banking sector. In banking sector, the first thing we can see is NPAs. When we are going through NPAs, if there are low NPAs, then the risk is less. If NPAs are more, then the risks are more. It goes in a straight line. So next comes about capital adequacy, then credit deposit ratio and return on assets. These all go in one by one and neck to neck because capital adequacy and credit deposit tells us that if they are more, then the if capital adequacy is more, then we have good amount of capital in our hand so that we can negotiate that risk. Same with the credit deposit as well. But return on asset tells us that how much returns we are earning from the assets that we have. So it should be more, but here it is less. It is from the schedules of banks. So these are some of the sources. So this is a small pie chart which describes us about NPS, capital adequacy, liquidity coverage ratio, and provisioning coverage ratio. These are the topics that were covered in the last slide. This is smaller pie chart. Let's step into FMCG sector. FMCG sector like HUL and Unilever, these are some of the examples. So in this slide, we have taken all these sectors as a whole. So the major indicator for FMCG will be raw material cost. As I said earlier, costs are very much important for FMCG. So raw material cost, then volume growth, how much they are growing per year, that will be measured in this. Then average inventory turnover in a day or in a month, according to the company, how many times they are reordering their inventory. That talks about inventory turnover. Then EBITDA margin. This is one of the important indicator. This directly or indirectly talks about the profits. So 19.5% is the EBITDA margin for large cap FMCG sectors according to 2024. So this is a small bar graph which describe this, and the source are from NSE or BSE annual reports. So again, FMCG sectors risk are identified through pie charts where raw materials price volatility and brand equity erosions are taken into consideration. Then inventory and demand risk, regulatory and labeling risk. Regulatory and labeling risk are one of the important things because regulation plays a major role in any sector, but in FMCG, as it's the fourth largest sector in our economy, regulation plays very important role and it's a major risk for them. Automobile. Automobile is one of the major sector which gives around great contribution towards our economy. It's the second largest economy. It's the second largest sector which gives good contribution towards our economy and growth. So inventory, EV penetration, debt to equity ratio, and operating margin. These are one of the major indicators in this inventory. Like as I said earlier, we have seen this indicator even in FMCG sector as well. But here inventory talks about semi-manufactured or semi-furnished goods like OEM comes under this. EV penetration, now we are going into EV sectors from gasoline or diesel. So EV penetration is very important thing. Share of total PV sales. Then debt to equity, we can say that 0.65 times automobiles are increasing their debt per year. So this is one of the, we can say it's a good, but sometimes what happens, more debt can also cause some problems. So we have to keep an eye on debt to equity ratio as well. Then operating margin. Operating margins are like how much cost we are incurring for our day-to-day operations, like working capital and day-to-day operations can be managed through operating margins. So that is 8.5% for four-wheeler OEMs for 2024. So these are some of the sources like SIAM, and company annual reports. Automobile sector, here we have categorized automobile sector into technology distribution, supply chain risk, regulatory. Here we can see about emission test, then demand cyclicality and input cost. Like before 2024, we were more into gasoline and diesel sectors, trucks and all. But nowadays we are into EV hybrid engines. So because of this, demand cyclicality has been changed. So we can see here in a white ratio, it was before 15%. Now it has more than 25% because of the demand cyclicality. So EV transition risk, as I said earlier, now we are into EV transformation. So this plays a major role. Then supply chain distribution, like few automobile sectors, like few automobiles are manufactured in some other states of India, but those are transmitted to some other states. For example, few automobiles are engines have been imported from other countries and are assembled in some one state of India. Then it is transmitted to another state, so that has some cost as well. So supply chain distribution is an example for that. Then emission norms, as you say, we do emission and yellow slip form we will be getting regarding emission test. So these are some of the risks. Then dealer inventory overheads, like dealers, like we pay RTO tax and some dealer costs as well. So these all are some of the risks that impacts our demand for automobile sector. So this slide talks about all three different sectors. When we put together, how it can be seen, like the risk and volatility. Risk severity score. So 1 to 10 scale, 10 is highest risk, and below 10 will be moderate, and less than 5 will be a less risk which could be handled. So this talks about how different risks can be identified and can be mitigated. So beta and this sentence talks about how a particular sector can be idealized and can be solved through one specific risk. So here banking beta, FMCG beta, and automobile beta. Beta is nothing but how we can identify the systematic risk. But here what happens when we identify systematic risk, then automatically we can understand what are the unsystematic risks in that particular sector. So these lines, pink identifies the beta of FMCG sector, dark blue color line graph talks about the automobile beta, and small lighter blue color talks about the banking beta. So these are three different sectors which has different types of risk but has a greater contribution towards our economy. So in this is not last but not the least. Here we can see beta, key risk drivers, regulatory burden, liquidity risk, margin stability, technological risk, and diversification. These are some of the indicators. When we go through them, we can shortlist or we can identify some of the risks that can be mitigated and could be which cannot be eliminated completely, which could be avoided for a small certain of rate. So thank you one and all for this video. So here, yellow we can say this is about the banking. Yellow is about banking. Orange is on FMCG sector, and purple is on automotive. So these are some of the